You know how limes pretend they're harmless? Round, cute, sitcom fruit. Then you nick your thumb and squeeze one, and it finds every paper cut of your life. That was me. The morning I watched Marco premiere my menu on TV. Salt and lime. Not even a new name. He took the title right out of my notebook and put it in his mouth. Don't laugh. Yes, I know. I should have turned the TV off. But the porter likes the morning show, and I like knowing what the ocean's doing. So there I stood, hip against steel, coffee that had decided to be cold without telling me. And there he was on set, white jacket, stitched signature, humble eyes paired with expensive teeth. Miami itself, he told the anchor, lifting a lime like a wedding ring. Sun on the water, a little heat, a little tang, nothing fussy. He started describing my dish back to me like a man explaining your own story at a dinner party. Snapper cured in citrus and sea salt, corn ash on the grill for smoke, preserved lime aioli. My preserved lime aioli, which he once called to grandma. He even stole the phrase I wrote on the tasting sheet, sun-bleached salt, dockside sweetness. I felt my heartbeat move into my gums. You ever feel that? Like a tiny drummer is living in your molars. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink hard. I went very, very quiet. Thunder quiet. Decisions click into place in that quiet. Marsol slid in, elbow touching mine like we share electricity. You seeing this, Hefe? I'm seeing it, I said. He stole your whole plate. He signed my name. I took a long drink of cold coffee like I was proving I possessed maturity. Here's the part that embarrasses me. I didn't hate him. Hate is too hot, it burns out. This was cooler, meaner. He taught me I was useful, but not visible. He let me believe if I kept feeding his empire, one day he'd say my name into a microphone like it had been obvious all along. And I let him. That's on me. So what did I do? I turned off the TV. I told Marsol we make him cook without me. Say more, she said, because she is 26, faster than a rumor, and morally flexible in a way that keeps the line moving. Not sabotage, I said. No slashing tires, no salt in the stew. We just remember who brings what to the table. You're gonna flip suppliers, she whispered, eyes dancing, wrist half covering her grin. I'm going to recontract what's mine and feed people while I do it. By noon, I was behind the dumpster where the Wi-Fi is strongest, calling the little web of people who keep this city full. Diego, the fisherman, picked up before the first ring ended, because fishermen keep odd hours and odd guilt. You watching TV? I asked. I don't own a TV, he lied, but my cousin does. You like being screamed at for being 8 minutes late with fish? I like paying for my daughter's braces, he said. Same. So hear me. Pop-up Friday night. Cash on delivery, fair price, no corporate calls after midnight. Menu prints your name big enough your cousin can read it from the couch. I need the clean snapper routed to me first. Pause. Wind. A gull yelling at someone who deserved it. You'll get me banned, he said gently, like pointing out spinach in my teeth. I'll get you options. He sighed, like the ocean had pressed a finger to his sternum. I didn't say no. Ms. Alvarez texted while I was still smiling at the fence. If he took your limes, he took my patience. Tell me where to send the good trees. She always texts like an aunt who loves you and has no time for your nonsense. Chucho was last. He grinds our corn until it smells like weather. I'm not a weapon, he said, which is exactly why I wanted him. You're an ingredient, I said. Come be an ingredient with your name on it. By lunch, I had enough yeses and maybe ifs to feel the world tilt a degree toward me. I started the salt lime cure like lighting a fuse. The snapper tightened under the citrus the way it does when it's listening. 48 hours, time you can't rush, can't hack, can only respect. Noah, the GM, my ex, the man who can inflate a budget and his own nobility in the same breath, found me weighing crates of limes. Inventory's up, he said. So are TV ratings, I said. He blinked, the one he does when deciding whether to be charming or correct. Don't be petty, Layla. Don't be cheap, Noah. We slipped into the walk-in kale, sparkling like velvet, air tasting like metal. Look, he said, rubbing his temples like my existence was a math problem. This is how it works. Marco sells the dream. You make it real. One day he steps back, you step up. Everyone knows that. Everyone says that. I corrected. Different thing. Please don't make a mess, he said. And in the cold, I could hear the word wetless forming behind his teeth. You won't like how the group plays. I don't like how they eat, I said too softly to count as insubordination. I zested limes until my fingers smelled like a good mistake and told myself the truth. I was done asking permission to be the author of my plate. Call it midlife. Call it an allergy to invisibility. Call it a cut I decided to heal by burning. Um. Thursday evening, the cure glistened like a secret I didn't owe anyone. I'd borrowed 2 tents and a flat top from a friend who wants to be my enemy but isn't. I'd texted a blogger I once fed after she cried in a bathroom on her birthday. I printed a menu with Diego, Alvarez, Chucho in bold under each dish like credits after a film. Marisol tied her hair up and demanded, "Say it." "Say what?" "The line you're saving for when it works." I pressed 2 fingers into the fish, felt it spring gently back. He said my food lacked story. I let myself grin. "Tonight, it's going to eat him." She snorted. "Put it on a t-shirt." After the health inspection, I said. We set up behind a bodega in Little Haiti, where the streetlight is kind and the landlord is too lazy to be evil. The air was sugar and heat. Anyone who's lived one Miami summer knows the smell like the city has eaten mangoes and fallen asleep on your shoulder. I chalked the prices low enough to make me mad and high enough to make me brave. By 7, we had a line that looked like optimism. By 7:15, the first plate came back empty, and someone told me a food blogger had cried. Happy tears, she specified, but tears, which matter more than stars. "Galas from 9 to 11, Marisol murmured, eyes on the tickets. "You think they'll—" "I think empty plates make louder TV, I said, which I regretted as soon as I heard it out loud. At 8:30, my phone started pinging like a slot machine. A server from the gala, the snapper's not snapper, a bartender, "These lemons are pretending to be limes." A line cook I mentored and then watched get eaten. "Corn's not nixtamalized." He told me to Google it. There are 2 ways to hear that, as a symphony or as sirens. I heard both. Then my phone rang from a number I know even though I pretend not to. "Noah, don't do this," he said without hello. "You made your point. Get your win and let it go." "My point hasn't plated yet," I said. Which again, why does my mouth freelance like that? "You're going to get people hurt, Layla." I looked down the line at Marisol, at Sylvie from Pastry, who was using her day off to torch meringue like a love letter, at Chucho bagging extra masa with a do-not-charge face. He wasn't wrong. Revenge has a splash radius. "I'll take the hits," I said. "That isn't how it works," he said. The group— He didn't get to finish, because Marco stepped into our alley smelling like cologne and panic. "Kiddo," he said, which is what men say when they want to step on your neck and make it sound paternal. "What do you think you're doing?" "I'm feeding people," I said. "You're siphoning," he said. "You're God, Layla. You're embarrassing yourself." "Tonight?" "I'm busy," I said. "Can we schedule my humiliation for next week?" "You want a title?" he said, eyes skimming my face like the answer was written there. "Chef de cuisine. More money. Credit on the menu." "And authorship?" I asked. "On Salt and Lime?" He hesitated. It was half a heartbeat and a whole thesis. "It's a collective creation." I smiled, which I do when I'm done being polite. "You can't plate what you don't have, Marco." He leaned in like he was going to whisper. He hissed, "I made you." "You made a system where I was useful," I said. "That's not the same thing." He looked past me at the line, at the people eating, at Diego laughing with a politician I wouldn't vote for. "This is petty," he said. "This is precise," I said. "Be careful," he said, a threat cosplaying as concern. He left a smear of anger behind him like the tail of a comet and walked back into his gala, where the limes were lemons and the corn was pretending not to be sad. We plated. We plated like we were telling somebody how to come home. The internet is a very fast, very dumb river, and if you push a tiny boat into it at the right angle, it sometimes becomes a ferry. Someone posted a video, my hands salting fish, Marisol laughing, the chalkboard menu with names in bold, the first bite landing in a woman's face like a surprise she'd ordered and forgotten. Someone wrote a caption, "Sous chef saves summer." Then another, "TV chef flops, alley chef feeds." By 10, people were leaving the gala to see whatever's happening in Little Haiti. By 10:30, we were sold out of snapper, and I was making a sandwich out of leftovers for a kid who looked at me like I had invented lunch. By 11, the anchor who'd eaten Marco's version in the morning was at our folding table in heels, trying not to drip preserved lime aioli on her silk. Do you want to talk on camera? She asked. Later, I said, handing her extra napkins. When my hands stopped being useful, Noah showed up with a face like a funeral and ordered for two. He stood off to the side with one of the bussers we'd both trained and then failed in different ways. He lifted the plate like it might bite him. He took a bite and closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, he looked tired in that permanent way that has nothing to do with sleep. He gave me a tiny nod I don't know what to do with even now. We broke down at midnight to the sound of strangers telling us we'd saved them. It's intoxicating and dangerous to believe you can save anyone with dinner. We loaded the tents and the flat top. I sent everyone home with tips that made my wallet mourn and my heart feel professional. Tomorrow? Marisol asked, bare-armed, eyes bright, already addicted. Tomorrow is the part where the grown-ups throw things, I said. Let me catch some, she said. No, I said too quickly, too protectively. She grimaced. I had just said I'd take the hits, and now I was volunteering her as a bystander. That's not leadership, that's performance. I'm not your baby, she said, soft. I know, I said, and I did. I just didn't know it in a useful way yet. Morning arrived in its usual Miami costume, humid, loud, a little hungover. My phone hummed itself into a seizure. The group's PR flack wanted a statement. The sponsor wanted my side. A legal person I hadn't met wanted to clarify relationships. The anchor texted a heart and a fork emoji. My mother texted a picture of my father eating something he insisted he didn't like but had clearly finished. I showered until the water stopped feeling like a question, put on the least stained jacket I own, and walked into the restaurant like I still had a key. Marco was in his office with someone whose suit had never been near a fryer. They're saying you have proof, the suit said without looking at me. I have receipts, I said. Time-stamped R&D docs, tasting notes with my initials, Slack threads where my ideas were too niche, until they weren't, supplier DMs, calendar invites, a photo of my notebook next to a dish that would later be renamed Marco's Summer Snapper, like the ocean was his godfather. You're going to damage yourself, the suit said, which is the kind of sentence that should require a fee to say aloud. I'm going to put my name where it belongs, I said, and my people's names. The suit smiled a lawyer's smile. What do you want? Public credit, back pay, contract language that names me creator on Salt and Lime. A release from the non-compete not just for me, but for my team. A supplier code that pays on delivery and stops the midnight tantrum calls. A public apology would be nice, but I am not greedy. I know men who apologize on camera never mean it, and women who demand it are called noisy. Marco looked at me like he'd never seen me, and maybe he hadn't. You want equity, he said, guessing, projecting, bargaining. I want authorship, I said. You can't make your own dinner out of my bones. He laughed, one note short. Fine. You can have your little credit line. We all know how these things really work. Put my little credit line in writing, I said. Then call your sponsor. We'll keep you on, the suit said smoothly. Chef de cuisine, competitive package, clear pathway to... No, I said, and it surprised both of us. I'm leaving. Noah made a sound like a chair scraping tile. Marco's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, more like a muscle memory. Then why are we negotiating? The suit asked, losing politeness faster than his hairline. Because whether I stay or go, the truth goes in the ledger, I said. And my fru doesn't get punished for my spine. We did the dance. They pretended not to need me. I pretended not to enjoy the pretending. They called it compromise when the paper said exactly what I asked. Marisol's non-compete gone. Sylvie's visa. Guaranteed legal support even if she quits. Supplier code signed with a clause that fines them for late payments. Authorship, there in black, under Salt and Lime. Right before a clause redefining the menu as a collaborative creation led by Chef Layla Nassar. It took everything in me not to ask for a second font size. And then came the part where revenge presented the bill. You used us, Marisol said that afternoon when the adrenaline got price tagged. She didn't say it to be cruel. She said it to be true. I was leverage. You're my partner, I said, which was a sentence shaped like a promise, but not yet one. Partners get asked, she said, not told in the walk-in and handed an apron. She was right. I had dragged her into my fire and called it warmth. Sylvie came by with a Tupperware of something lemony just to laugh at me. You know visas don't like heat, right? She said, sweet as icing. You don't get to gamble mine because your face looks good in a fight. I should have asked, I said. You should have planned like a woman with a crew, she said. Not a hero in a TV movie. She was right too. You can be the center of your story without making everyone else a prop. So I did a thing that terrified me more than the confrontation did. I took what they gave me, the credit, the back pay, the release, and I walked it into a lease meeting for a much smaller kitchen than my pride wanted. I cashed out my 401k while my financial advisor made a noise like a trapped raccoon. I wrote the names Diego, Alvarez, Chucho, Marisol, Sylvie on a whiteboard, and asked a lawyer how equity works when what you have is reputation and stubbornness. We called the place Salt and Lime, because if I didn't name it after a cut that heals by burning, what was I even doing? We put the suppliers' names under each dish on the printed menu. It made the layout messy and my heart neat. We wrote a rule that whoever writes the dish gets their name under it until they say otherwise. We wrote another rule that said we pay on delivery, not net 30, not net forever. The margins hate me. I sleep better. The week before we opened, Marco's PR released a statement. We believe in nurturing talent. We regret any misunderstanding. We're thrilled to see Chef Layla soar. It had the tone of a man congratulating you on the baby he insisted you couldn't have without him. People sent it to me with popcorn emojis. I didn't reply. I was in the walk-in pressing my fingers into fish that sprang back like they knew my name. Noah came by in plain clothes and stood at the door like a dog who got yelled at last time he jumped on the couch. The group's mad, he said conversationally, like reporting the weather. But they signed. They'll survive. They always do. I'm not running a revenge restaurant, I said before he could accuse me of it. I'm running a kitchen that explains itself. He looked at my line the way he used to look at me. This was always in you, he said. It sounded like confession, which is a thing he's never been good at. It was always in the food, I said. I just finally stopped pretending I was seasoning. He laughed once. You want an investor who knows how to stay out of the way? I want a GM who remembers people aren't costs, I said. We did not hire him. We might, later, when we both deserve it. Opening night looked like a line and sounded like a stove sticking, then unsticking. Miss Alvarez sent a crate of limes that snapped off their branches like ornaments. Diego delivered the clean stuff without texting me first, which is trust. Chucho brought extra masa and told the host stories about when corn was a secret. Marisol wore a jacket that fits like a future and yelled at two men in soft voices that made them say, "Yes, chef," like it was their idea. Sylvie plated a citrus tart that made me say a word I don't use in public. I stood at the pass, hands steady, mouth finally quiet. People ate and made the faces humans make when their bodies recognize something true before their brains do. Someone filmed, someone cried. Someone sent a picture to the morning anchor, who liked it then ordered takeout when her show ended. At 9:30, a couple walked in from Marco's place, still dressed for chandeliers. We wanted to see what all the noise was, the woman said before the man could be brave. I fed them the snapper, because I refused to be petty with dinner. They ate in that slow way people eat when they are used to pretending they're not hungry. The man set down his fork and said, "This tastes like the ocean apologizing." "I'll put that on the t-shirt," I said. He didn't laugh, but in his defense, he was busy forgiving himself for everything he'd eaten before. After close, the crew stayed for a minute because leaving too fast is bad luck. We sat on milk crates like we still worked for other people and passed around a bowl of limes like it was a trophy. I told them what I should have said at the start. "I'm sorry," I began. To the whole circle, to each name. "I used you like pieces in a plan I didn't show you. I told myself it was for us, and sometimes it was just for me. I can't promise I'll never make a selfish choice again, but I can promise I'll make it out loud, and I'll pay my debts." "You already are," Marisol said. "Chin up, not a kindness but a contract. We have salaries, not favors." "I also gave Ms. Alvarez 2%, I said. "And Chucho 1. You're giving away your house before you buy it," Sylvie said, but she was smiling the dangerous smile of a woman who intends to collect. "It's their house," I said. "We're just lucky to live in it." At midnight, I locked the door myself because I am at heart a control freak with keys. I walked past the sign that still smelled like paint and the chalkboard where I'd written a quote I didn't plan to keep. I wiped it off and wrote this instead. "Credit tastes better than apology. It's sharp and a little smug." It's also true. On the way home, I drove past the restaurant where I used to make other people rich. The windows were lit like a jewelry store. People in perfect shirts laughed into emptiness. A life I could have kept going walked by me in heels and didn't notice. I slept hard and cheap and woke up before my alarm because my body doesn't trust clocks. In the kitchen, the snapper waited to be salted. The limes waited to be cut. I stood over a cutting board, knife in my hand, fingers already smelling like something I would carry into every room I entered. You know how limes find every paper cut? They do. But that's not only pain. It's a map. It shows you where you've been careless. It shows you where you bleed and where you heal. He said my food lacked story. Tonight, it ate his. And tomorrow it will feed whoever shows up hungry. And will write their names under the dish too.